Hi, I'm Muki, and I'm here chatting with Milky. Milky?
Left my engine on so I could drive away, but I got him speaking smooth like Coltrane. Giant steps into mistakes. Does he know he's being brave? 'Cause I do. Honest, cross my heart, I'll be your kind of heaven.
I think I just was that little brat when I was younger that just was like, I'm going to be a pop star. And then, in that delusional frame of mind, I just did it. There wasn't any decision where I was 13 and I was like, yeah, this is it. It was just something that I always wanted to do. And I think it was really propelled by my family. My dad's a piano player. My sister writes songs as well. So yeah, it was just always something I did. Where to begin? I guess with the EP, there's this overarching journey. It's obviously, for me, it was a really healing process writing this EP because, I'd gone through some pretty traumatic things. And even though it might not sound like it, the songs kind of do reflect that personal journey of mine. And it kind of explores themes like emotional abuse, trigger warning, emotional abuse, gaslighting, and, coercive control, and just a breakdown of a relationship, which I think people would be maybe surprised to find out just because the songs are a little bit more happy, I guess, happy sounding. But yeah, I think for me, that's what the overarching theme of the EP is. It's just a breakdown of a relationship, and then that's kind of explored in these really kind of fun, it's just explored in kind of a more fun context. I always want to kind of do something a bit different, and I think the obvious thing would have been to do ballads, but I don't think that's very Muki-esque. I think what my fans would expect from me are club bangers, so I kind of wanted to still stay true to that part of the project, but also be as authentic and honest as possible. And I found that the balance that I could achieve that with is by kind of talking about these heavier themes, but in a way that was kind of fun and light. And I kind of liked that twist on the narrative a little bit. It was always a really intentional choice for me. I always start from a place of honesty. So lyrically for me, the EP comes out really naturally, but yeah, with the sound design and everything, that was there was crazy references in there. I was referencing for Space City Limit, for instance, I referenced this episode of The Simpsons. Do you guys remember the episode where Homer goes into that 3D space and it's got green grids? For some reason that was how I saw Space City Limit. It was just, and I kind of took that to my producer Seiko, who I collaborate on a lot of my stuff with, and I was like, this is the reference for the song. Figure it out. No, it wasn't quite like that, but yeah. I write really visually, generally, so I think that's what the interesting thing about the visuals are, is that what you see on the short film is kind of how I saw the songs when I wrote them. Yeah, with the sound design and the sonics, that's kind of I don't normally, I take in sonic references Madonna and Sophie and all of that, but I also take in visual references. I kind of have pinpointed the Mukiverse as just this crazy, delusional, alternate reality that I live in. Well, as I said earlier, the visuals were literally how I saw the songs. Because I write super visually, I wrote LMF, I saw the elevator when I was writing the song, and even when I don't know if people would have picked up on this, but when you're transitioning from the first chorus to the second verse, there's actually an elevator sound. So you're sonically entering into the visual space that I see the song in, if that makes sense. The visuals for me were just another way for me to communicate to my fans that kind of Mukiverse space, or just explain the narrative of the EP more. And so yeah, the visuals were all born out of my crazy weird brain. the director for the Car Crash Through Your Heart short film, we had all of this like extra content, like B shots. So my manager had a meeting with Serenade and they kind of pitched this idea that we could collaborate on a NFT together. And then we got Jamin involved because he had all of this like B footage and he actually built the NFTs. But it was just this like, yeah, and we gave him like a week's notice. He's amazing, like to firstly jump on board that last minute, but like also to just be so multi-talented. I just can't even fathom. But yeah, and the idea of the NFTs kind of came from just like myself and my manager like talking. But it was really weird because we both, like he flagged this idea of maybe doing an NFT and then I went away and had a little think and we both came back with the same idea. So I'm like, ooh, it's like big magic. I don't know if anyone's read that book, but it's like that vibe. Me and my manager always like have that moment where we just like are thinking the same thing and then we say it at the same time and it's like, oh, whoa, that's crazy. When I was kind of processing through like what I was going through and then also kind of thinking about what I wanted to do next as an artist, I was like watching a lot of Blade Runner and dystopian future kind of movies, and I really liked how with Blade Runner, it's obviously made in the 80s, but it's like trying to do a time period that's like beyond now, but it's like the 80s conceptualization of what like 2000, I think, what was it, like 2019 was when Blade Runner was set. I can't remember, but it was what they thought 2019 was going to be. And I kind of like loved this idea of this nostalgic feeling, but like in duality with that, this like futuristic utopian vibe. And I think that's like, to sum up the EP, that's kind of what it is sonically and even visually. It's kind of this like, kind of has this like vintage feel to it. Like a lot of the synths we use are like old vintage synths, but with this like futuristic pop sound design that was like super inspired by artists like Sophie and A.G. Cook and all of that. So to sum up, I would pick Blade Runner, the OG one with Harrison Ford. I think I would choose I Make Boys Cry, only because it's like such a club banger. It's actually not, I don't know if I should say this, but it's actually not my favorite song on the album, on the EP, but I think it has a little bit more of like an instant grab to it because of that kind of really subby bass, and yeah. So I would pick I Make Boys Cry. My favorite song's actually Tears in the Rain, which... Oh yeah, Naz, you like Space City Limit. Look, they're all good. People go listen to my EP. There's like, I go through phases of like singing different songs, and I probably also go through phases of different favorite songs on the EP, and that's probably when I go through that phase of like, oh, this is my new favorite song, I'll probably start singing that song a lot more. And I think also because I think recently I've been singing Space City Limit only because it's like the latest song that we've released. You know what? Scratch that. Scratch all that. There is this one line in Tears in the Rain. It's actually the beginning line. There's a few lines. The first line is, I've been wondering what to do. It's this like moment at the end of the EP where it's really like introspective, and it's a really like funny song because it's about encountering that person that you that broke your heart essentially, and that kind of journey and like that conversation with them. And I just like the conversationalness of that song. Also, sorry, not to like humble brag, but I also really like the second verse in Tears in the Rain, because it's that whole verse is like based off a real conversation I had with somebody. And I wrote it in like 10 minutes. Like it was one of the easiest things to write. And I tried to rewrite it so many times because like, I don't know, I was like trying to fight this alternate indie pop person in me that wanted to change up the second verse, but I ended up doing it anyway. And I just love how that particular verse like rolls off the tongue. Like it's a really easy verse to kind of sing. And it's savage as fuck. I have a show August 12th in Sydney at Oxford Art Factory Gallery, and yeah, it's going to be fucking sick. It's going to be really cool. We were going to transform the space into the Muki first, so that when people enter into the venue, you instantly feel like you're in this alternate reality, which is like what I feel is in my brain sometimes.
Like rivers, I'm falling apart. I felt like rivers, I'm falling apart. Mother's love's like tears in the rain. All that's left are echoes of your name.
Robin. You know what? This is really sad, but Sophie, actually, yeah, I actually could like tear up. I think there's been a few, sorry, but that's true. I think Ellie Goulding's Hallican Days was just like, when I was younger, one of the albums that was just like, it really got me interested in like this alternate version of pop music, because I think at the time it was like really alternative. Also, the Robin Body Talk trio was just, you know, fucking amazing. Okay, I won't tell you what, like, I don't know if it's necessarily my favorite song of 2021, but I really like the new Lupa J track, Savior. No shade, it's probably not, like, it's, how can you pick the best song of 2021? There's so much good shit happening, but it's one of my favorites. I would just soundtrack like a cute Netflix teenage. I really want to get one of my songs in like a Netflix teenage movie. I don't like To All the Boys I Loved Before, but like the Savage like breakup movie of that. Miley Cyrus. I think my first concert was with my family and it was U2, which is kind of embarrassing. So I think my first concert alone was Lily Allen, and I got free tickets somehow. I can't remember how, but I did. That's how fucking bougie I was. I loved M83 when they played the Enmore. I don't know what it was about it, but it just had this really awesome energy to it. Everyone was just like really free, and I think because that's the type of music they make, it's like that kind of show. But it's probably one of my favorites. Spicy Spice. All of my guilty music pleasures have become like cool now. One Direction was like my favorite thing. Like delicious, so good. That was my guilty pleasure. Robin. Or Dua Lipa, I wouldn't mind. Sophie and A.G. Cook and that kind of scene. Currently, yes. Just keep being a badass, bitch. That's it.